Good afternoon, and welcome to another program in the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission's monthly live stream series, Ask the TTSEC, where on this occasion, the focus is on Fintech. I am Ellen Lewis, Manager of Corporate Communication and Education with the TTSEC, and I will take you through what we anticipate will be an informative session on the topic of financial technology or Fintech. Today's live panel discussion and question and answer segment will give you the opportunity to pose questions directly to a panel of experts. The TTSEC is the regulator of the securities industry in Trinidad and Tobago. We have direct oversight of the securities market that deals with the trading and exchange of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. We derive our legal authority primarily from the Securities Act 2012, and chief among our responsibilities is protecting investors, like many of you who have tuned into this live stream. Any person in Trinidad and Tobago who has money invested in us in a mutual fund, a bond, or a stock that is listed on Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange is an investor. Today, however, we focus our discussion on financial technology. What is it, and what is all the buzz and excitement around it about? Joining our Ask the TTSEC panel are key experts from the financial sector, the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, the Financial Intelligence Unit, the International Financial Center, and of course, the TTSEC, host of this investor education series. Before each panelist is given an opportunity to speak briefly on the role and function of their respective entities, I'll provide a brief introduction as to who they are. Lystra Lucilio is the acting CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. Ms. Lucilio has been employed with the Commission for over 13 years and holds the substantive position of Deputy CEO. Previously, she served as Director of Information Management. Ms. Lucilio has a wealth of knowledge and expertise in the financial sector, with emphasis in the securities market. Lystra?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Lystra Lucilio, the acting CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission, or as we affectionately call it, the TTSEC. We are the regulator of the securities industry, and our remit covers all financial products and transactions within the securities industry. Of course, as part of our mandate, investor education is key, and we ensure that we take the time to provide information to the public at large concerning investing. Thank you, and we do hope that you enjoy today's session.
Thank you, Lystra. Leslie Ann Devines is the Assistant Manager, the Payment Systems Oversight Division in the Financial Institution Supervision Department at the Central Bank. Leslie Ann, an economist, has been with the Central Bank for over 25 years. While there, she was seconded for 2 years to the International Monetary Fund as the Senior Advisor, Office of the Executive Director in the Brazilian chair, as this country's representative. Leslie Ann? We'll go back to Leslie Ann in a little while. Kylene Dowden is the Director of Legal Services at the Financial Intelligence Unit. Kylene leads the legal team providing advice and guidance on all matters affecting the FIU. She has spent the past 7 years of her professional life focused on AML, safety, policy development, and implementation in the public sector. Kylene also brings over 12 years' experience as an attorney in both the public and private sectors. Kylene?
Thank you, Alan, and good afternoon to our audience. I'm Kylene, and I'm the Director of the Legal Department at the Financial Intelligence Unit. So what is the FIU? Our FIU was established to implement the recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force on money laundering, the financing of terrorism, and other related matters. Our FIU is an administrative type FIU. So what does that mean? That means that we do not have law enforcement or prosecutorial powers. But some of our main functions include the collection of financial intelligence and information, usually in the form of suspicious activity reports or voluntary information reports from the public. And we use that intelligence and information to generate trends and typologies, which we then share with our relevant stakeholders, both locally and internationally, in combating AML, in combating money laundering and the financing of terrorism. We are also the AML-CFT Supervisory Authority for listed businesses and non-regulated financial institutions. Thanks.
Let's go back to Leslie Ann. Leslie Ann Devines is the Assistant Manager of the Payment Systems Oversight Division in the Financial Institutions Supervision Department at the Central Bank. Leslie Ann, an economist, has been with the central bank for over 25 years. While there, she was seconded for 2 years to the International Monetary Fund as the Senior Advisor, Office of the Executive Director in the Brazilian chair, as the country's representative. Leslie Ann.
Thank you, Ellen, and good afternoon to the viewing public. Thank you for inviting the Central Bank to be part of this very important panel discussion on financial technology. The Central Bank is empowered by the Central Bank Act, and it is the primary regulator charged with the responsibility for monetary and financial stability, inclusive of payment system stability. On the monetary front, the central bank keeps a close watch on economic developments with a view to maintaining a low and stable inflation rate, an orderly forex market, and an adequate level of reserves. On the financial stability side, the bank is authorized to license and supervise financial institutions to ensure they operate in a sound and safe manner and that they meet their obligations to customers. The bank is also responsible for the oversight of the payment system, where I work currently, and it is the area responsible for ensuring that payment systems operate safely and efficiently and in keeping with international best practice so that risks are appropriately mitigated and financial stability safeguarded. In addition, the central bank has many other roles, including being the sole issuer of our notes and coins, and serves as the banker to the government and financial institutions such as banks, and is the lender of last resort. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Leslie Ann. Chandradat Maharaj is the Vice President, Financial Markets Development with the Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center. Chandradat brings over 12 years of senior leadership experience in a wide range of industries, both locally and internationally. He serves as a member of the Disciplinary Committee of the Institute of Surveyors of Trinidad and Tobago, a member of AmCham TT Digital Transformation Committee, and acts as advisor to 2 non-profit organizations. Chandradat.
Hi, thank you, Ellen, and good day to my panelists and everyone that's logged on today. I'm Chandradat Maharaj. I'm the Vice President of Financial Markets Development at the Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center, the TNT-IFC. The TNT-IFC is the national agency that is responsible for Trinidad and Tobago's financial sector development and maintaining TNT's position as the region's financial hub. Now, one of our main objectives is to facilitate TNT becoming a fintech-enabled financial services hub and moving Trinidad and Tobago towards becoming a cashless society. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Chandradat. And thank you to the panel for taking the time to participate in this important discussion. Now, if you or someone you know is an investor or is interested in investing, feel free to share this live link on your feed and submit any question that you may have at any time during this live stream using our live chat feature on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We will do our best to answer all of your questions. If, however, your question has not been answered, you may send it to us via the email address appearing on your screen or by direct message on any of our social media platforms, and we will surely reply. To start off our discussion, let's begin by addressing a basic question. What is financial technology? Chandradat, can you assist us here with a simple definition?
Thank you, Ellen, again. Financial technology, or fintech, is perhaps best defined as the application of technology in making financial services faster, better, more convenient, more accessible, and cheaper. Or simply put, fintech is technology-enabled financial solutions. And fintech, while it's a relatively new term and seems to be a bit of a buzzword today, financial technology has in fact been around for actually a few centuries. If you were to track back the evolution of fintech all the way back to the 19th century, with the first transatlantic cable being done in 1866. You track that forward into the 20th century, in the 1950s and 60s, you would have had the advent of ATMs and credit cards. Now, in the 21st century, we have seen the rise of modern fintechs beyond the use of cables, cards, and ATMs. Rather, we have seen the evolution of phones becoming smartphones, physical wallets becoming mobile wallets, payment applications, equity crowdfunding platforms, insurtech, retirement plans, and the like, which to a great extent has and have been both enhancing and replacing traditional financial services. Thank you.
Leslie Ann, how important is fintech to the growth and development of the local financial sector? Leslie?
Yes, thank you, Ellen. Well, fintech has potential to present benefits and opportunities for growth and development of the local financial sector. Let me start by saying that fintech, first of all, has the potential for enhancing efficiency within the financial sector as traditional processes and legacy systems are upgraded, resulting in improved processing times and reduced transaction costs. So, for example, banks, they have been upgrading their technological infrastructure to offer multi-channel banking services via the internet, mobile channels, in addition to the traditional ATM. Secondly, the concept of fintech is broad, and domestically, most of the developments in fintech have been in the area of payments. But fintech has the potential to impact the evolution of financial services across the entire value chain in terms of the way we pay, clear and settle transactions, make deposits, lend, raise capital, invest, and purchase insurance. So as fintech is used to upgrade and modernize the financial sector, it will be making it more efficient, convenient, secure, and all-inclusive. Also, fintech may have positive benefits on financial inclusion by widening access to financial services for the unbanked and underbanked segments of the population. So, for instance, with the recent effecting of the eMoney issuer order, other categories of persons that are not banks can now offer e-money products and services, which may allow other persons that were unable to have an account with traditional financial institutions to obtain a low value account with an e-money issuer to facilitate payments. Consequently, fintech developments may foster competition and lead to financial sector transformation in the longer term. Due to the entrance of new entities like fintech firms, there's the possibility for collaboration among these firms, which could lead to the development of improved financial services. But I add a caveat, and this is because fintech also poses risk in terms of money laundering and terrorism financing, technology and cyber security risks, risk to consumer protection that needs to be mitigated.
Thank you, Leslie Ann. I know that later on in this live stream, we'll be delving a bit more into the risk associated with fintechs. But at this stage, Listra, can you tell us about the types of fintech products or services that are operating in the local financial market?
Sure, Ellen. As Chandra Dutt would have stated, financial technologies have actually been around for some time. You're probably already familiar with some of these, which will include products and services such as ABMs, ATMs, credit cards, debit cards, ACH transactions, online banking, online payment systems, gift cards, etc. Today, the most known and possibly discussed application of fintech is in digital banking, mobile payment systems, and digital wallets. In fact, many smartphones may already come with pre-installed digital wallets. As the technology becomes more and more available, usage increases. More advanced fintech solutions, including Robo Advisors, blockchain contracts, specialized risk assessment platforms, and crowdfunding platforms are available, and some of which are already in use in Trinidad and Tobago.
Interestingly enough, Listra, we have a question that is coming through from a Ronald in Kawanaj, and he actually wants to know about some of the more prominent fintech products. But I'll throw that question to Chandra. Chandra?
Thanks, Ellen. Fintech products are popular types of fintech products would be, as you said, the traditional ones such as your debit cards, your credit cards. Of course, we have mobile payments now, mobile solutions, your payment systems, Yeah, you can actually use your mobile phone now to actually make payments for products and services. You have your Apple cards, your Amazon cards. All of these are examples of fintech products. Thanks.
What about Robo Advisors? Nisha, can you tell us about Robo Advisors? What are they exactly?
A Robo Advisor is an automated investment tool. Um, it's more of an advice tool. They're digital platforms that provide automated, algorithm-driven financial planning services with little to no human supervision. A potential investor would log on to a system, software, or app, answer a list of questions concerning their investment styles, goals, expectations, and the system will generate an investment strategy. Once the investor agrees with the suggested strategy, an investment portfolio is developed and the investor can interact directly with the software or robo-advisor to make any changes. Essentially, robo-advisors provide largely automated portfolio management advice, strategies, and services for investors.
Thank you, Lisha. Another prominent fintech product we often hear of is eMoney. But what exactly is eMoney? Leslie Ann, can you assist us here?
So eMoney, as defined by our Financial Institutions Act, means monetary value represented by a claim on an issuer, which is stored on an electronic device, such as a chip card or phone or computer, and it's issued on receipt of funds of an amount less in value than the monetary value issued. And what does this mouthful mean? This means that if I give the eMoney issuer $150, that he is supposed to give me the equivalent value, that's electronic money. And then this electronic money now can be accepted as a means of payment by persons other than the issuer. But it's also important to note that e-money can be viewed as card-based e-money in terms of when it's stored on prepaid cards or software-based e-money that is stored on a server or a computer, such as e-wallets. And then it's important to make the distinction with the other payment instruments, because they are debit cards that allow access to customers' accounts, and that they are credit cards as well that allow customers to access credit granted by a bank. So these are distinct to e-money products. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. And you're having a bit of distortion from your end, so our online audience, kindly bear with us as we seek to address the audio issues that's affecting the transmission of that of Leslie and of the central bank. We move now from e-money to cryptocurrencies. Kylie, what exactly are cryptocurrencies?
That's a good question. But before going into a discussion on cryptocurrencies, I think it's useful to first discuss a definition of a virtual currency. The Financial Action Task Force, or the FATF, defines a virtual currency as a digital representation of value that can be digitally traded and functions as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. But it does not have legal tender status in any jurisdiction. It is not issued or guaranteed by any jurisdiction, and it fulfills the functions that I just listed only by agreement within the community of users of the virtual currency. A cryptocurrency is a type of virtual currency which is based on cryptography. It is decentralized, meaning it's not issued or controlled by any central authority such as a government or a regulator, and it relies on public and private keys to transfer value from one person to another. Transactions using cryptocurrencies are typically conducted using distributed ledger technology, or DLT, such as blockchain, which serves as a public database of the transactions that occur using the cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is probably the most well-known cryptocurrency, but according to coinmarketcap.com, there are more than 2,200 different cryptocurrencies being publicly traded today. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Kylie. We want to reach out again to Leslie Ann. Leslie Ann, is there a difference between e-money and cryptocurrency? And if there is, what exactly is that difference?
Yes, there is a difference. And the main difference is that eMoney is based on fiat currency. That is the legal tender or national currency issued by a country. This is quite unlike cryptocurrencies, which they are not denominated in legal tender and they are mined or mathematically generated. Yeah? So that's the main difference.
Based on what we've just learned from Leslie Ann, do cryptocurrencies present a challenge for regulators? And are cryptocurrencies regulated in Trinidad and Tobago? First, I turn to Listra to provide a response, and thereafter, Leslie Ann of the Central Bank and Kylie of the FIU. Listra?
That's an excellent question because it's always advisable that potential investors check a product or service provider to ensure that they're regulated for their own protection. Cryptocurrencies are still considered to be relatively novel. Internationally, different countries may adopt different approaches when it comes to regulating them. This is largely based on the way in which cryptocurrencies may be utilized. In some cases, cryptocurrencies are purchased and sold on crypto exchanges, which is similar in concept to the buying and selling of shares on a stock exchange. In other cases, a cryptocurrency is generally used as a medium of exchange. For example, the purchase of real estate utilizing Bitcoin. In these two situations, you may have the securities regulator attempting to implement regulation to oversee the so-called trading of the cryptocurrency, and where the use of the cryptocurrency is more akin to that of a traditional currency, the banking regulator may get involved. One thing that is certain is that this requires the collaboration of all financial sector regulators because of the various ways in which it can be utilized. Locally, this collaboration is the preferred approach.
With that, I wish to invite Leslie Ann to give the central bank's approach. Leslie Ann?
Yeah, so I am in agreement with all that Listra has said, and I agree that countries have been taking different approaches to treat with cryptocurrency, because the question is usually raised, who should regulate these cryptocurrencies? Should it be the central bank? Should it be a Securities and Exchange Commission or the Financial Intelligence Unit? And measures, and this is because they all have concerns for these regulators, and so measures that have been taken internationally has ranged from either none to, to issuing warnings or to have a targeted approach in terms of regulating specifically for money laundering, right? So in Trinidad and Tobago, all three regulators are involved in regulating cryptocurrency. And we would have issued a joint statement in January 2019 advising the public of cryptocurrency. So,
Thank you, Leslie Ann.
Thank you.
Kylie, the FIU's position or its approach?
Well, as my colleagues have just said, the regulation of cryptocurrencies can vary depending on which jurisdiction you examine and how these cryptocurrencies are actually being used. So I'll give you an example in the United States, for instance. So businesses that involve cryptocurrencies may qualify as something called a money service business, or MSB. So this is a variant of what we call money or value transfer services in Trinidad, and the regulation of these types of businesses for AML CFT purposes falls under the FIU. These MSBs in the United States are registered and supervised by FinCEN, which is their AML CFT supervisory authority, but it is an overarching AML CFT supervisory authority for all institutions. So even though they are registered with FinCEN, there may be small variations in the way the cryptocurrency firms do business, and that can mean a difference between whether they should be registered as an MSB or not. For example, the provider of a hosted wallet may be an MSB because it exercises total independent control over a customer's cryptocurrency. But the provider of an unhosted wallet that vests the customer with total independent control of that wallet may not. Another example, the operator of a trading platform that merely provides a forum where buyers and sellers of the cryptocurrency can post bids and offers may not be an MSB. but the operator of a trading platform that additionally acts as an exchanger in finalizing transactions between buyers and sellers may very well be. As we can see, there are clearly still many gray areas in this category, and as technology continues to advance without clear legislative pronouncements, the answer remains, it depends.
Nicely put, Kylie, it depends. And as we've heard, there's no standard approach for the regulation of fintech, which varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. We shift now to the role of regulators in relation to fintech. Listra, what is the TTSEC's role in relation to fintech?
Part of the mandate of the TTSEC is the protection of investors from unfair, improper, or fraudulent practices, to foster fair and efficient securities markets and to build confidence in the securities industry. At core, all the activities of the TTSEC revolve around this mandate, and this would have shaped the TTSEC's position on fintech. In March 2019, the TTSEC issued a statement concerning fintech, where it was stated that in recent years, there have been significant advances in financial technology, fintech, that have impacted the securities markets internationally. It was also noted that such innovation has the potential to improve the efficiency of securities transactions and provide cost effectiveness and convenience when compared with the business models of traditional financial services. The caution was also raised that while such potentials exist, innovation without proper safeguards can also pose a grave risk to investors and to the stability of the financial markets. In fact, in January 2019, the TTSEC joined with the Central Bank and the Financial Intelligence Unit to publish a joint advisory on the potential risks associated with virtual currencies. The statement explained the role of the TTSEC in indicating that as the regulator of the securities industry, the TTSEC has a responsibility to understand, monitor, and where appropriate, encourage innovative developments while simultaneously being prepared to implement safeguards where necessary to protect investors and the securities market. The statement closed by emphasizing that the TTSEC remains committed to working with persons to ensure that the financial innovation is made accessible to the investing public in a safe and structured environment. Generally, the TTSEC appreciates the possible benefits which may be derived from fintech, but regulation and oversight are essential. Also, potential investors need to ensure that they understand the products prior to investing. The TTSEC, in conjunction with the Caribbean Group of Securities Regulators, has developed a fintech pledge to allow potential investors to acquire some basic information concerning fintech. The link to this will be shared in the chat windows and will also be made available on the TTSEC's social media platforms.
Thank you, Listra. How would you describe the central bank's role in relation to fintech, Leslie Ann?
Yeah, I would like to start by quoting a statement I saw in the Financial Stability Institute of the Bank for International Settlement. It says that the financial system relies on trust, and losing sight of the risk to stability and the integrity of the financial system could jeopardize that trust. Without trust, the potential benefits of fintech are unlikely to materialize. So while the central bank is aware of the possibilities that fintech offers for improving the efficiency and security of financial transactions, it is guided by its mandate for monetary policy and financial stability. And as such, the central bank is also concerned about the risk that these new financial innovations pose to the financial system. So the central bank has developed a fintech policy aimed at promoting an environment to accommodate ongoing financial innovations while mitigating associated risk. So the key tenets of the policy are also contained in the bank statement on fintech and virtual currencies issued in November 2018, which first states that the central bank's position on fintech is that of open but cautious, that it will engage with these fintech companies, But in doing so, it's going to enhance this engagement by establishing an innovation hub and establishing a regulatory sandbox. Then, in terms of supervision of the relevant activities, the bank will supervise and monitor products and services that fall under its remit, right? And then, in terms of collaboration, it is collaborating with other domestic regulators on fintech. So, a fintech steering committee has been developed among the three regulators, the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, the FIU, and the Securities and Exchange regulators to facilitate wider fintech innovation and ensure that the products and services of fintech firms are appropriately regulated and there's no room for arbitrage. It's also going to collaborate and is collaborating with its regional counterparts to develop harmonized supervisory frameworks to the extent possible to monitor any attempts at regulatory arbitrage. And then very importantly is that it plans to develop an appropriate regulatory framework and that is flexible and accommodative of ongoing fintech policy. So we have already to date issued our eMoney issuer order, which will see other categories of persons being able to issue eMoney products. The bank is currently also working towards a policy proposal for the development of a comprehensive payment system act that will encapsulate fintechs as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie Ann. Kylene, how does the FIU view its role as it pertains to fintech?
The FIU definitely has a role to play when it comes to fintech regulation. So the FIU's mission is to effectively detect and deter money laundering and the financing of terrorism toward a safe and stable financial, social, and economic environment in Trinidad and Tobago. The FIU will continue to fulfill this mission through assisting its stakeholders in understanding AML safety risks that may be associated with the different types of fintech products and services, and understanding the best practices that may be used to help mitigate these risks. Existing AML safety laws will still apply to fintechs, such as the requirement to make suspicious activity reports to the FIU and to conduct screening against the respective lists for terrorist financing and proliferation financing. Existing financial institutions that are now engaging in fintech services will already know of these obligations. However, the detection of suspicious activity may be relatively different for these new types of services. New fintech companies, or tech fins, what we call the technology companies that are now getting into finance, may be unfamiliar with these risks and their legal obligations to mitigate these risks. The FIU's role in this case is to have meaningful collaboration with the relevant AML safety supervisors to ensure that all parties can better understand how we can help each other to meet these AML safety obligations. Additionally, the FIU may find itself in a position of having to be the supervisory authority for a particular segment of the fintech sector, depending on the nature and type of activities performed by the fintechs. So, for example, remember we spoke previously about the cryptocurrency businesses and how the US treats with some of these as money service businesses, which is a variant of what we call the money or value transfer services. Under the AML safety laws in Trinidad and Tobago, a person carrying out this type of business that is not licensed with the central bank would have to be registered for AML supervision with the FIU. Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you, Kylene. The International Financial Center. How does it approach fintech? Chandra, can you tell us?
Sure. Thanks, Ellen. Well, as mentioned earlier, the TNT IFC, we are responsible for financial sector development and, of course, maintaining our position as a region's financial hub. And importantly, the work that we're doing is really towards making Trinidad and Tobago a fintech-enabled financial services hub and moving us, importantly, towards a cashless society. This is being done through facilitating the widespread adoption of financial technology and, importantly, working with all the regulators present here today in ensuring that vision actually comes true. So back in February 2020, The TNT IFC would have launched Fintech Association of Trinidad and Tobago as an NPO, or Fintech TT, and this organization is set up to be the vehicle to drive the fintech agenda in Trinidad and Tobago, and to engage the government, regulators, market, and all stakeholders in developing the fintech ecosystem. We have been building out the internal structures of the association, and soon the responsibility will be that of the private sector to go and develop the association while the TNT IFC remains a stakeholder. Fintech TNT, through the IFC, has also been working with the Joint Fintech Steering Committee, as mentioned by Leslie Ann before, and we've been working with them, or the combined regulators, and would have contributed to the same eMoney policy, the ministerial order, the non-financial institutions guidelines, the regulatory sandbox, and of course the communication plan for eMoney rollout. Further, the IFC is also engaged in a number of initiatives, all geared at enabling the fintech agenda. So for example, we actually are currently running a series of webinars that is running through to the end of September. We have a study that is we have with the Latin American Development Bank on financial inclusion. We are partnering with the Latin American Development Bank as well on a fintech competition, among other initiatives that we do on a daily basis. So our work continues, and we continue to work with all stakeholders in quickly advancing the ecosystem required for the rapid adoption and advancement of the fintech sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandra. We have a question here coming via YouTube from a gentleman called Bruce Wayne, would you believe? He's asking, has the Minister of Finance position on cryptocurrencies changed? He is stating, the Minister previously had a firm stance on not using or implementing cryptocurrencies. Listra, can you take this question first?
Sure. Earlier this year, as Chandradat would have stated, when the TTIFC would have launched the Fintech Association, actually the minister sent a video message where he said he was very happy to be associated with the launch of the Fintech Association, and it's designed to promote, educate, and collaborate in the use of digital technology in financial services. So that is the most recent stand from the minister that we are aware
of. We have a question directed to the TTSEC, and it comes from Kenya Adamson via Facebook. And she's asking, what is the Commission doing to regulate cryptocurrency in this jurisdiction? How is this done? Listra?
Cryptocurrencies, as we would have stated at the beginning, is that it's based on the way in which the cryptocurrency is utilized. Now, once it's something and it's utilized in the form of a medium of exchange, then you'll have to have the banking regulators involved in that. But when it's utilized as a share, that's how persons would trade, let's say they purchase and sell bitcoins on a crypto exchange, that would be regulated by the SEC. What we are doing right now is that we at the SEC, we have developed our own internal fintech policy, and we are in the midst of reviewing and our legislation as well as our support to be able to allow for the registration of these types of systems. But it's, as with everything, it's a work in progress, and we are looking at the different options available, what would be needed on our end to put that in place and to properly regulate it.
Thank you, Listra. I am certain it is very reassuring to the public that regulators of the financial system are working collaboratively to ensure a proper framework for the operation of fintech products and services in this country. And the role of the IFC cannot be understated, as they serve as an effective enabler to business offering financial services and stand as an ally to regulators. We do have another question coming in from Marima, and come from a young lady called Sumintra, and she wants to know whether there are any international standards or best practice which regulators are guided by with respect to fintech. I'll put that question first to Leslie Ann. Leslie Ann?
Yes. The regulators are guided by international standards and best practice. And we have been looking at those emerging from the IMF and World Bank, as well as FATF. So I could speak briefly to the Bali FinTech agenda that was launched in 2018 by the World Bank and IMF, and perhaps Kylie might be able to speak to the FATF, right? So that the Bali FinTech agenda was developed jointly by the IMF and World Bank and launched in October 2018. And it is really intended to serve as a blueprint that countries may adapt to their own circumstances when seeking to discuss or develop policies around fintech. It really consists of 12 policy elements that countries could take into consideration. And each of these policy elements comprises a range of actions that countries can pursue towards achieving such outcomes. So some of these elements include that countries should embrace fintech. It speaks about countries adapting their system, their legal systems to accommodate fintechs and modernizing legal frameworks to provide an enabling legal landscape. It also encourages international cooperation and information sharing. I will say no more about this because it can be found, this entire document can be found on the IMF and World Bank websites for those who are interested. Okay.
Eileen, what can you tell us?
So as Leslie Ann would have alluded to, I'll speak towards the FATF and the guidance from the FATF. As the body established in Trinidad and Tobago to implement the recommendations of the FATF, of course the FIU is guided by these standards. So the FATF is very aware of the benefits that fintechs can bring to economies globally. However, it's cautious that without proper regulation, fintechs risk becoming virtual safe havens for financial transactions of criminals and terrorists. The FATF standards therefore now require all countries to assess and understand the risks associated with virtual assets in their jurisdictions, apply risk-based AML safety regulations to virtual asset service providers, and identify effective systems that can be used by the regulators to conduct risk-based monitoring or supervision of these companies. To achieve this, the FATF recommends that virtual asset service providers be licensed and supervised in the same manner as other financial institutions. However, the FATF also encourages the building of partnerships between the supervisors of AML safety and the fintechs so that the supervisors can better understand the fintech's business models and the fintechs can better understand the risks the supervisors are trying to protect the fintech's customers and the fintech itself from. So based on these guiding principles, we're aiming for a very integrated approach to regulation.
We have a question here that's coming to us via Facebook from Ms. Sachin Gangpat. And he's asking us, stating that most development of fintech platform utilizes cloud services such as AWS or Azure. Based on current laws and regulation, what limits exist in utilizing such services, which is not hosted within TNT borders? I'm not sure whether the chair of the TTSEC can answer that question for us, or should I put it to perhaps Chan? I think we have to perhaps revisit that question. There's another question coming through, and this viewer, I think they're viewing us from, it appears to be Arima again, and they're pointing to when we started our discussion, we pointed to some of the associated risks tied to fintech. And in that regard, we want to focus a bit on those risks. Let's begin our discussion in this area with Kylie of the FIU. Kylie, what type of fraudulent activities exist when dealing with fintechs?
So some of the characteristics of fintechs which would create the advantages to the financial system, such as reduction in transaction costs, increased transaction speed, and ease of accessibility, These can also be appealing to criminals, who can see these as new opportunities to commit illicit activity and to avoid detection. Cryptocurrency markets in particular have presented as vulnerable to a wide range of criminal activity and financial crimes. And I'll give you some examples specifically related to cryptocurrencies of what has happened over the years from an international perspective. So we've seen trafficking of illicit goods and services. One of the biggest criminal uses of cryptocurrencies was seen in the use of the Silk Road marketplace, which was eventually uncovered in 2013. This marketplace was run on the dark web, and criminals trafficked in illicit goods, services, including narcotics, human trafficking, organ trafficking, child pornography, and they even used the platform to order hits on persons, with payments being made through Bitcoin. They also leave room for hacking and identity theft. Now, this isn't in relation to cryptocurrencies in particular, but it's an example that's widely mentioned by the FATF. The WannaCry ransomware attack, which occurred in 2017, was performed by hackers who targeted the Microsoft Windows operating system. And when they launched this attack, they held data on thousands of computers hostage until the victims paid the hackers a ransom in Bitcoin. It resulted in an estimated $8 billion in damages to hospitals, banks, and businesses across the world. Of course, fraud is one of the biggest threats that we have seen using cryptocurrencies. The initial Bitcoin boom created a potential breeding ground for Ponzi schemes involving cryptocurrencies, as persons sought to get in at the ground level of new virtual assets that appeared on the market. In March 2019, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney General announced charges against the leaders of a purported cryptocurrency, which it is described as a multi-billion-dollar pyramid scheme involving the sale of a fraudulent cryptocurrency. It is alleged that the principals of this multi-level marketing scheme defrauded U.S. investors of over $4 billion. Money laundering, of course, is one of the bigger risks. The anonymity, the liquidity, and the borderless nature of cryptocurrencies make them attractive to money launderers. The ability to rapidly and almost anonymously open cryptocurrency accounts provides a low-risk means for criminals to convert and consolidate illicit cash. In the scheme that I just mentioned, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney claimed that one of the cohorts in that scheme was a former partner of a major U.S. law firm, and this person assisted the group in laundering more than $400 million through a series of purported investment funds, which held bank accounts at financial institutions in various locations around the world. And the final example I'll give is in regards to terrorist financing. The same anonymity and ease of creation makes crypto accounts ideal for persons to receive payments that might have otherwise raised terrorism financing red flags in regular bank accounts. Just earlier this month, in August, the U.S. issued a press release revealing the dismantling of 3 terrorist financing campaigns, which represented the government's largest ever seizure of cryptocurrency in a terrorism context. What these campaigns had in common was that they relied on sophisticated cyber tools, which included soliciting cryptocurrency donations from around the world. Each group used cryptocurrency and social media to garner more attention and raise funds for their terror campaigns. The U.S. authorities report that they seized millions of dollars out of this scheme, over 300 cryptocurrency accounts, 4 websites, and 4 Facebook pages, all related to the criminal enterprise. Now, this information is not intended to deter anyone from using cryptocurrencies or crypto assets, but to show how important it is to have regulatory oversight over this type of product to ensure the safety of not only the financial sector, but the population at large.
Thank you, Kylie. We have a question coming via Facebook from Nicole Triton Kisoon. And she's asking, what are the current hurdles or next steps needed to implement tools like Samsung Pay in Trinidad and Tobago? And is there a timeline anyone is working with to have that materialize? Leslie Ann of the Central Bank.
Yeah. Thanks, Ellen. I would just like to indicate that the central bank would have developed an eMoney policy to allow other categories of persons to issue eMoney which includes those types of applications where you may need a mobile wallet to make payments. So I would like to say that the timeline is here because we would have just recently issued the eMoney issuers order. So that persons who would like to do those kind of activities may approach the central bank and make application. Yeah?
Thank you, Leslie Ann. Clearly, for more discussion, there is a need for a joint regulatory approach in relation to fintech. What is being done in this area, Leslie Ann?
Yes, there are plans. There are plans for a joint approach, as I would have indicated previously, that all three regulators are collaborating, and we already have established a FinTech steering committee to advance this work. So we are in the process of launching a joint innovation hub as well as a joint regulatory sandbox.
So, no more questions, Michelle.
Hello? Right, so I will continue, yes. In terms of the regulatory hub, this is simply a portal that will be hosted by the central bank and placed on all three regulators' websites that will allow entities to seek guidance and on their regulatory requirements for their proposed financial technology products and services. And the hub is earmarked to be relaunched soon, right? And the objectives of this regulatory innovation hub are for the regulators to understand the new fintech products and services being proposed, the risks that they may present, and the mitigants to address these risks. It will also seek to provide entities with a better understanding of the regulatory and supervisory requirements to operate in the financial environment, and it will seek to determine whether the innovative products or services the entity is proposing is eligible for registration under existing legislation or testing in the regulatory sandbox when it has been established. In addition, the regulatory sandbox will be an arrangement set up among the three regulatory authorities to provide entities with a facility to test their innovative financial products and services, their business models, etc. The objective of the regulatory sandbox will be to determine whether the innovative financial products or services can be introduced safely into the domestic financial environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie Ann. From the level of online engagement, clearly there is much public interest around fintech. And this TTSEC live stream event will have further awareness and understanding of the topic. It is our intention to have this panel back with us again to continue the discussion on fintech. But for now, some closing remarks from our panelists. I begin with Chandra of the IFC. Chandra?
Thank you, Ellen. Well, firstly, I would like to say thank you to the TTSEC for hosting such an important event. It truly is needed, and also to my fellow panelists for your participation. The development of fintech space is critical to our country moving forward. If anything, COVID-19 has demonstrated this, and it has been a catalyst for us trying to now accelerate that process of widespread adoption. Every institution represented here today, through collaboration, has contributed to where we are now. It is a work in progress. The work continues, and certainly there's a lot more work to be done. The TNT IFC fully endorses the work being done by everyone here, and we look forward to the continued growth and development of the fintech sector. Of course, we'd also like, being a resourceful ally, we also will continue to assist the regulators in developing the space and will continue to assist Trinidad and Tobago in maintaining its position as a financial hub of the Caribbean. As I wrap up, it is noteworthy to take a moment to recognize the great work that is being done by the regulators, and we tip our hats to you and encourage you to continue the great work, continue to push forward, and certainly one day, very soon, we'll make Trinidad and Tobago a cashless society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chandra. Kylie of the FIU.
Well, thanks, Chan, for those sentiments. And I want to again thank the TTSEC for the opportunity to have this discussion today and the rest of my colleagues on this panel for their continued support and collaboration. I also want to encourage persons to make use of the Innovation Hub and Regulatory Sandbox when they're launched. These would have been what Leslie spoke about a little bit earlier. So we can all work together, the Fintechs and the regulators, to promote economic growth in a safe and secure environment in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylene. Leslie Ann of the Central Bank.
In closing, I would like to thank the TTSEC for having this event and for inviting the Central Bank to participate in the public outreach to educate and share with the viewing public our plans as regulators to create that supportive and enabling environment to foster fintech, but at the same time ensuring that this is done in a safe manner that does not impact the stability and integrity of the financial system. I would like to urge entities that are engaging in or desirous of undertaking fintech activities to approach the regulatory authorities to discuss these products and services to ensure that they are appropriate. Also, those wishing to use the fintech products or fintech services, they likewise should ensure that that fintech provider is adequately and appropriately regulated. We aim to make the engagement with the regulators more convenient and efficient, and will be launching our joint innovation hub very soon. So please look out for the launch of this, which is coming to you. Persons would be able to access the hub from each of the regulators' website, as I said previously. It was also a pleasure being part of this panel discussion with my colleagues from the other regulatory bodies and the TTIFC, which is an important stakeholder in the fintech space. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie Ann. Listra of the TTSEC.
Thank you, Ellen. We have been fortunate to have such a panel of experts join us today, and we appreciate all their contributions. The work it continues. As with any investment, from the SEC standpoint, we always look at the impact on the investor. The onus is on you as a potential investor to have an understanding about what you're getting involved in. What are you going to be investing in? Fintech, cryptocurrencies, crowdfunding, they're all current terms and brandished about, but many persons do not have a clear understanding of exactly what they are. So do some research about the products, the services, and service providers, as well as if and how they are regulated, because this offers a level of protection. The TTSEC has an investor education brochure, which is extremely relevant even to fintech, and that is know your ABCs. Ask questions, beware of fraudulent activities, and check your regulators' websites. Thank you all for joining us today. Take care and be safe.
Thank you, Listra. We've come to the end of our first live stream event on fintech. And we say thank you to a panel of experts for sharing their time and knowledge with us. Listra Lucilio, Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. Leslie Ann Devine, Assistant Manager, Payment Systems, Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. Kylene Dowden, Director, Legal Services, Financial Intelligence Unit. And Chandralat Maharaj, Vice President, Financial Markets Development, Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center. The panel will be with us again on Wednesday, 30th September at 2 p.m., where the question that won't answer today due to time will be answered then, for the second part of our feature on fintech. Until our next Ask the TTSEC live event, goodbye and be safe. I'm Ellen Lewis.